You want to tell the story about you and Dad at the Icehouse?
Oh, yeah, that was the one that, there was a big old boy there. He's as big as me, and he's a little bit younger, same age as Beck. He'd always made fun of her. I mean, made fun of her. He's one of those real hot shot guys and stuff. Of course, she was there and she didn't like it. Couldn't stand to be around him. And he was in there being, you know, smart and all, being a tough guy and stuff. So I just said, you know, come here, let's me and you go outside. I want to talk to you. So I went out there, we had a short talk, and pretty soon the fish started flying. And boy, I hit him, and I knocked him into, I hit him one time, I hit him good too, and he went, roar. I thought, oh boy, here we go. Man, boy, we was at it. I had him against this car and stuff, and the next thing I know, these other old boys, David, sitting there watching my back, more or less, and somebody had hauled off and had a golf club in their hand. They tried to hit him in the head. They took a swing at him and he ducked, and they hit him right there in the collarbone right there. And it broke his collarbone right there. But all of a sudden I heard Dave was on his back and this other guy was kind of on top of him, but I heard him go, let me go, let me go. So I grabbed this guy by the head of the hair and I just jerked him up, and when I did, Dave come with him. He had his teeth right there buried in that old boy's side. I mean, he buried his teeth.
I think Dad said the guy was screaming, "Get him off me! Get him off me!"
Yeah.
And you thought it was him.
I thought it was him. I thought that Dave. No, it was the other guy.
So
he had that old boy, but I mean, he had his mouth full of fizz. His eye right there. I don't know. He probably drew blood. I'm sure he did.
Dad said he took a chunk with him.
No, I'm sure.
But it hit him in his left collarbone. Dad being left-handed, he couldn't.
Yeah.
His arm just slumped down. But he had to have that surgically.
Yeah,
he had it pinned.
They had to have a screw. They put a screw in the shoulder right there and screwed it back in and stuff.
Yeah.
That's when. Shortly after that was it. He quit drinking, smoking, everything. I mean, he's nothing. He stopped. And then one day, I didn't know it later, but Virginia had an apartment. Our old little sister had an apartment there in Columbus, and he'd been
Bud
going
Laundromat.
Yeah, Bud Laundromat. He'd been staying up there with her, reading his Bible. I didn't know this till years later, and he really got deep into the Bible and stuff. And then one day he'd come to Dad, and that's when we was staying there at about the Corona, just south of the Gay Parida. And he said, "I'm leaving." He had $600 and an old Pontiac. Old beat up one, that's it. He had $600, saved his money up. He loaded his car, and Dad said, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I don't know. I'll let you know when I get there." And Dad said, "Well, I kind of like to have an idea." And he goes, "I don't know. I don't know." So he left, and it was 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks later, probably closer to a month, he finally got a hold of Dad or something like that, and he was in Billings, Montana. He had went up into the Sierra Mountains somewhere and spent 2 weeks by himself, just him, all by himself in his Bible. And he said, that's all, he said, just me and God. And he spent 2 weeks there like that, and then he moved on to Montana, and he got down to where he'd rented this old apartment. That's where he met Helen. And she was going to college out there, and lived in the same apartment building. But he got down to where he didn't have, he was broke. He was flat broke, and he didn't know words, no jobs. He went by this little building that said, you know, it's where you check for jobs, and it had a sign in the window, no jobs, like that. So he just started walking. He walked past, and some guy in a white van pulled up beside of him. He pulled right up on the sidewalk.
When he saw the sign, he said he told me, he said a prayer. He said, "Lord, I don't know what you got planned for me,
Yeah.
but I could really use a job. If there's something out there, could you please help?"
Yeah, and this van pulls up on the sidewalk, and I mean almost blocked him from walking. And he said, "Are you looking for a job?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "You want to build a fence?" Yep.
And it wasn't, it was temporary.
Yeah, temporary.
It wasn't anything permanent, but
Yeah.
Dad said it was more than he had, so he was.
Yeah. So they put him out in this area where a river had been, and it washed out, and there's rock, but they needed a fence through there, and he had to dig holes in the rock and set railroad ties in it. And he goes, every time you dig, you know, the rocks just fall in. He just kept digging, he set this post, and he going, and he built this fence, or built the post and everything. The guy was really impressed. You know, because he stayed with it, didn't quit him, and he stayed with it. And I don't know how long he done it, but he done it quite a while. And the guy come to him and asked him, said, would you want to work at the stockyards? They want some more fence that could repair it. Yeah. So they put him at the stockyards. And he started helping this maintenance guy that was there and helping this guy. And eventually he worked himself up, and this maintenance guy retired. He became the head maintenance guy at the Billings packing plant and stuff. So me and Dad and Beck, we went up there one time. We spent, a couple days, 3 days or something with him. He gave us a big tour. You know, the plant took us inside from where they killed him, skinned him, and showed us the whole process. You know, something like that. And we were walking on the outside of the building, and I heard this big old metal chute door go clicking like that. And here come this big old cow's head. Just the head come bouncing out of that thing like that, out into the big old chute thing. And he goes, that was too big, like that to go through the grinder, so they rejected, kicks them out there on that there. And then from the plant was a big pipe, and it ran over to box cars. And sitting on the railroad track sitting there, and it sounded like marbles running down this pipe all the time. Well, it was ground up bone. They grind the bone up and just blow it down in there and load it in box cars. Well, it goes from there, they dry it and grind it up for dog food, bone meal. And it's added to dog food and stuff. That's what the bone meal is. And they grind them up.
And gelatin.
Oh yeah. One guy's job sitting there, all his job is to split the stomachs open. Because they got the stomachs and they split them open, and of course they've been in the feedlot and the only thing in there is the hay, ground up hay, and he washes it out like this here, and he puts it over in there. So that's ground up for, that thing goes into bologna and stuff. Yeah, you know, he said you don't know what goes into bologna. And he said, and this one old boy sitting there, and there's water running, a stream of water that big around, just running, and he's sitting there and he washes his hands off like this here, and he goes, gets him a drink of water, and he goes back to splitting these stomachs and grinding them off. He just rinses his hands off, gets a drink, and going back and just...
So they had those magnets they would shove down the cow's throat while they were out in the feedlot.
Yeah.
They were like giant capsules. I have one or two at the house, but they're about the size of my index finger, and they'd shove them down and make the cow swallow it, so, because they want anything, because cows will eat anything.
And it collects the metal.
Collects all the metal to the stomach, so when they gut them like that, then they just find the magnet and they reuse them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a process. They had these air knives and stuff. This old boy, they'd pop these cow in the head, and immediately they got them hooked around the feet. Up they go, and hanging there like this. And this guy had a big old knife like this, and he just reaches around like this, and goes like that, and the head just drop like that. The only thing holding it on is the windpipe and stuff, and the head dropped like that. It goes on around, this guy, off comes the head. They got the big old air knife and like that up the legs and stuff. Start peeling the hide down, and these big old rollers are just tires. They're tires, and they're going like this. And they hook the hide in it, and it starts pulling up like, or pulling down. It goes down like this here, just pulls the whole hide right off the cow. Just strips the cow of the hide, just boom, right there. Of course, they take the hides and they sell them. They're tanned and used for boots and whatever. And then, of course, the gut, and here comes the gut stuff. They save certain organs and stuff like that. Rest of it's like that and washed out. Part of it's bologna, part of it's beef liver, part of it's this and that. Like that, processed. And by the time that cow goes in there, I think it's less than 15 minutes. It's hanging in a cold locker. They hang them up and put them in a big old locker, and they're just one after the other, just boom, boom, just shoving. You wouldn't believe it. It's quite a process. But he became the head. He bought his first brand new truck. It was a 1976 or 77 Dodge truck.
I think it's 77.
77 Dodge truck. It was a 6-cylinder, slant 6, 4-speed, 4-wheel drive.
It was a power wagon.
Yeah, a power wagon. Old slant 6 pickup. About one of the cheapest trucks you could buy, brand new. And stuff, but it was nice little truck.
Yeah, we drove all over in that truck for years.
Yeah, and when he decided to come back from there, pack it up, and he was done, he loaded it up, and he had a big camper shell, and he put everything he owned in it. And he was going up a mountain hill, and here come a guy on a moped, and he gained on him. He goes, he downshifted and everything, trying to get away from that moped, and he couldn't. So he said, in order to save face, he pulled the truck over and let the guy pass. He said, I just let him pass, and I sat there until he got way down the road. Then he took back off. He said, that was embarrassing. He said, get past. I had a 4-wheel drive Dodge truck, and I was getting beat by a moped. So he had to pull over, let it go. But when he came back, they hired him immediately up there at Pittsburgh, up there at the packing plant up there and stuff. He got jobs just boom, boom, boom. He'd never done without a job there after he come back. I mean, they hired him everywhere, maintenance and stuff, and he was good at it. He's self-taught too. That's why when they sold the car wash and stuff, nobody, even Johnny, that built the thing, he came out there and looked, and he's, my God, he couldn't figure out the wiring. And he had his own schematics right here in his head, and he could put stuff together and make it work, and it worked fine and stuff. But when he went, the schematics went with him, so it's hard to figure out exactly what this wire done. But he knew. He'd sit there and go, well, this and that, or he might add a piece because it needs this, and blah blah blah, and it'd work. He was a whiz at that. I mean, he was good at it and stuff. I never had near the talent he has and stuff like that. And fabricate, he'd get an idea in his head, he'd start cutting and welding and grinding and doing stuff, and he'd make it. I mean, do it. I couldn't. There's no way. I just couldn't do it.